Akadosh Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, Masechet Ketubot Daf Amud Aleph 11a1. We are at the Mishnah, Matnitin. The Mishnah says, Agioret v'ashevuya v'ashivcha shenivdu v'shenitgayeru v'shenishtachareru. You have a case of a gioret. What is a gioret? A convert, right? Or a shevuya. Shevuya is a girl that was captured. Means that she was a bat Yisrael, that she was captured by the goyim. V'ashivcha, or a maid servant. Yeah, in all these cases that they were redeemed, converted, or freed, if it's going to be less than 3 years and 1 day, so the ketubah is going to be 200. Right? V'yesh lahem tana betulim, and they have tana betulim, which means you could start coming and saying, right, whether they're betula or not. Amar Ravuna. Ravuna says, ger katan. When you have a ger katan, what does it mean, ger katan? Ger katan means that he doesn't have a father, and the mother is bringing him to convert. Matbilin oto al dat beti. So then what happens is that they're going to make him, right, do tevilah al dat beti, just like tevilat ger, and then they become his father. Okay, they become the father. Says the Gemara, what is this coming to teach you? It's a zechut, means to convert is something good. It's a zechut. And zachin ladam shelo befanav, meaning if it's not in front of him, you can make that zechut. So for example, can I right now give to Richard something on behalf of John Paul? And Richard will acquire it for John Paul. So the halacha is, if it's something good for John Paul, right, it's a zechut, so then zachin le'adam shelo befanav. We are going to make it as a zechut for him, not in front of him. So I'm going to give him right now, whether it's going to be a gemara, I'm going to give him money. I'm going to go, here, Richard, you're taking it for John Paul. It's a zechut, it's a good thing. John Paul gets it. The second I give it to the hands of Richard, he acquires it on behalf of John Paul, and now John Paul receives it. However, though, what happens if it's going to be something negative? I come and I give him an animal, right? A bunny, right? And I say, Jean Paul. Now, Jean Paul hates animals. Yeah, he can't stand it, especially a bunny running around in his house, right? Or a hamster. He's going to go crazy. So therefore, it's a chovah. It's not a zechut. It's a chovah, right? He's not happy with it. He doesn't want it. He's going to say, thank you. Stay with it. You're going to say, I don't want it. So therefore, even though I gave it to Richard, he does not acquire it for him. Because since it's a chovah, it's something negative, you do not acquire something on behalf of someone else if it's going to have a negative impact on it. So it all depends whether it's a zechut or chovah. If it's a zechut, zachin l'adam shelo befanav. If it's a chovah, en zachin l'adam shelo befanav. Okay? Fine. So says the Gemara, Shalom, what does it come to teach you? That when a person converts, it's a zechut. Zachin l'adam shelo befanav. 1 second. Tanina. We learned them in the Mishnah in Gitin. Also Yudalef from Bet, also Yudalef, 11:11, right? We are on Daf 11. There's a Gemara in Gitin, Mishnah in Gitin in 11. Zachin l'adam shelo befanav, en chavin l'adam shelo befanav. We only give a zechut to a person if it's not in front of him, but we do not give a chovah, something negative to a person if it's not going to be in front of him. So now 1 second, how are you going to tell me then, right, to do with the ger? So says the Gemara, no, you know why? Ma'od tema, I would have thought to say, Oved kochavim befkira nechale. I would have thought to say that a goy prefers to say a goy. Why?
2 reasons.
Right? Why? Because, right, he prefers it. Right? Because for us, it's mikubal that an eved for sure wants to be. When he's an eved, he could be with the shefachot, he could be with his maid servants, he lives a life of promiscuity, he doesn't need all things, and he's not obligated in all the mitzvot. So therefore, you would say he's a free man. He doesn't need to worry about anything, not waking up for shachrit, mincha, and it all depends how you look at it, obviously. You understand? Because obviously for a Jew, it's our zechut. If you tell someone that you have the merit of going to see, right, kamashman, you tahanemile begadol, that's only by a goy gadol, meaning a goy that is already elder, meaning that he's already an older person, so then he already prefers to be not Jewish, the tam di surah, because he already tasted the taste of Isur. Meaning you come and you tell, let's say, for example, a boy that he never ate pig in his life. Yeah, he never ate ham. So if you come and you start talking, he doesn't know, he doesn't care. Because for him, it's not even a temptation. He never tasted it. So for him, you're going to tell him, don't eat ham. He looks in the stores, the way that it looks, that big thing like that, he becomes disgusted with it, right? Maybe you're right. If they would put a kosher thing like that, it would also be there, but he doesn't know. So therefore, for them, they don't know about it. So for them, it doesn't even talk to them. But if a person actually tasted it, now it's difficult for him. He has to overcome himself. So therefore, what happens? Here he says, when is it that a goy, right, does not want to convert? When he's already a gadol. When he's a gadol and he already tasted all these surim. He tasted, he was, he used to sleep with the maid servants and he used to, fool around and he used to do all these things. So for him, he prefers to stay a goy. So for him, it's a chovah. Aval katan, but a small little child, he's a little child. He's an innocent child. That it's zechut for him. And therefore, betim could be megayer oto because there it's a zechut. And if it's a zechut, zachil adam shelo befanav. So it all depends on the age, right? We're going to come and say that this is a proof to that which we learned in the Mishnah. He says, what does it mean here? A gioret, the convert, that she converted less than 3 years and a day. Or a shvuya, that's the one that was captured. Or a shivcha, a maidservant that she was redeemed. So each one was either the goya converted, the one that was captured was freed, or the shivcha, which is the maidservant that she was freed also, she was liberated. Okay, so now in all these things, you see from here, there's a proof that you could do giyur, you could actually convert a ktana. Because here we're talking about giyoret, she gaira, right? A ktana, I mean, she was a ktana and she converted. So says the Gemara, my love, that pelinu al dat betin. Are we not talking about that the betin came and they converted her? That means it was al dat betin, it was because of betin, not because of the parents. And says the Gemara, no. Hacham maiskinan. It's the entire family that they're converting. There exists that if you have, let's say, the parents, that they're converting with their children, so therefore, it's not being done on that beti. It's being done that since the children want what the parents do, so they're doing automatically what the parents do. So if the parents are converting, so too the children are converting with the parents. So you have the entire family doing a family conversion. And that's what we're talking about. And that's why it's noach lo. That's why it's something good, but you can't bring me a proof to the chidush that a ger katan, they're going to do tevilah through the bedin. So Amar of Yosef says, Yosef, higdilu yecholim limchot. Do you know that if it is that a child converts when he's a child, when he gets older, he can renounce it. By the way, you should know the exact same thing happens with everything in life. Do you know that, for example, right, the citizenship, yeah, let's say you have somebody that's born, right, in Israel, to non-Israeli parents. So you could renounce the citizenship. What does that mean? It means even though they're born there, you say, I don't want it. I'm not interested. Why? Whether it's for different reasons, they don't want it. So the same thing they could do in a lot of things also as well. They could renounce it. So the same thing here, since he was a child when he converted, so when he comes bar mitzvah, he could renounce it. Which means he could say, you know what? Forget about it. This is too difficult. You know what it was? I had to start learning bar mitzvah lessons for a year and a half, and they drove me crazy. And now this and now that. He just says, you know what? Baruch shepetarani. He says, Baruch Hashem, I'm gone, and that's it. That's what the child could do. Why? Because since he converted when he was younger, so he could renounce the conversion when he becomes older. And then he could say he doesn't want to be Jewish. Okay? Nekuda. Fine. So therefore, comes now, right, the Gemara and says as follows. We're going to Eitvei. Abaya asks the following question from the Mishnah. So it says like this. 1 second. What did we just say in our Mishnah? We said in the Mishnah, any of these three women, whether it's a convert, whether it's a woman that was captured, or that was a woman that she was a maidservant, and they were freed, or they were converted, or they were freed or liberated, whichever one that it is. Now, if it's going to be that they're less than 3 years old when this occurred, so they have a ketubah of 200. Remember, the ketubah of 200 is a normal ketubah, meaning when a woman comes and she gets married, she gets a ketubah of 200 if she's a virgin. If she was a widow, if she was divorced, or she just was not a betulah, she wasn't a virgin. So then she only gets a ketubah of 100, right? Remember that the 200 and 100 was the value of what it cost for a year of living. So if 200 zuz was once upon a time the cost of a year of living, let's just pretend it's $50,000 a year. So therefore, 100 for the woman that she's not a virgin would be 25,000 because she gets half because she's not a virgin. So here it says, now if you're going to tell me that if right now this gioret, when she becomes bat mitzvah, she could renounce the conversion. What? We're going to give her a ketubah. So therefore, afterwards, she could renounce the marriage and then come and get a ketubah from being Jewish. What's going on here? Because again, what are we talking about? We're talking about that she got married before bat mitzvah. Right? Now you're going to tell me, what? Getting married before bat mitzvah? It happened. Yeah, it happened a lot in Morocco and other places. So is that 1 second? Are we going to give her a ketubah that she's going to renounce the conversion and then eat it when she's a goya? What's going on? So answers the Gemara, no. Lechigadla. We will never give her the ketubah until she's already a gedolah. Meaning that even if it was that she got divorced beforehand, we don't give her the ketubah immediately, because then what's going to happen is she can renounce the conversion and then she's going to be enjoying it outside. No, when she's already a gedolah and she receives upon herself that the conversion is still a valid conversion, now later on we give her the ketubah. Okay, so says the Gemara, says 1 second, when she's going to be a gedolah, also she could just rebuke and she could just go back to her goyish ways. Says no. Once she grows up 1 hour and she doesn't renounce her time, the conversion, that's it. She's finished. It's done deal. Right? Then that's why they ask them. They ask them usually by bar or bat mitzvah. They ask them, do you want to stay converted? Yes or no? If they say yes, it's a yes. If they say no, kamarnu. Right? But after they say the yes, that's it. They can't go back. They can't retract. So Mati Rava comes and he asks the following question. Elu narot sheyesh lehem knas. There are certain girls that they have a knas. What does it mean a knas? If somebody comes and they have relations with him, whether it is that he violated them or he seduced them, right? So what happens? You see from here, even if a person has relation with a mamzeret, even if though this girl is a mamzeret, she's still a Jewish girl, right? There's no reason why she's not a virgin, right? Netina was a type of Jews, a sect of Judaism. They converted, or kutit is the same thing. Or a gioret, a convert. Or a woman that she was captured, or on the shivcha, that they were redeemed, they converted, or they were liberated, less than 3 years old. They have a knas. That means if a person has relations with any one of these girls, there is a knas, there's a penalty, right? A person comes and he violates a woman. He thinks everything's for free. First of all, he has to pay the father money, 50 kesef, which is, again, that's talking about a big penalty. Besides the penalty, he has to stay married to her if she wants. Meaning, if she wants, the guy has to stay married to her. He can never divorce her against her will. Right? Why? Since he was the one that violated her, now he has to eat it. He has to now stay with her. Why? What? He could just violate her and then go around and do whatever he wants. And now she's now considered defected, a secondhand piece of whatever it is because he went and he violated her. No. He's obligated to stay married to her. So he says, if you're going to tell me that if they become older, they could renounce it, you're going to give her a knas and then she's going to eat it with yuta. And so give her the same answer. When she goes older, that's when you give her the knas. You give her the fine, the money, you give it to her only when she gets older. So ask the Gemara, well, also when she gets older, she's going to renounce it and she's going to leave. So answers the Gemara, the same answer. Once she grew up 1 hour and she didn't do a mecha'ah, she didn't rebuke it, she didn't renounce it, she can never renounce it later on. Abaye didn't say Rava. Why? What is the reason for a knas? The reason for a knas is that somebody that violates, since he did something wrong, we don't want him to become patur. We don't want him to be exempt. So therefore, what did we do? We come and we said that he should give a knas, he should give a penalty. So therefore, we were saying that even if it's going to be that he gives the penalty and she's going to run off, it doesn't matter because we wanted to give him the penalty. This person acted wrongly. We want to make sure that he gets it. Yeah? But Rava didn't say like Abaye, Rava didn't say like Abaye because Rava says, what's the reasoning for the ketubah? The reasoning for the ketubah is that you don't want it to be so easy for him to get divorced from her. So therefore, you have to obligate the ketubah. So therefore, he says all the time that she didn't rebuke, right? She didn't renounce the conversion. She's still considered a Jew. So because of that, the rabbis made sure that it shouldn't be easy for him to get rid of her, and therefore they obligated the ketubah, even though it could be that she will, right? Renounce it later on. but they don't want it to be so easy for him to get her out of the house. Okay? Fine. Next. Mishnah. Hagadol sheba laktana. Right? V'katan sheba lagdola. Imagine right now you have a gadol, okay, that he has relations with a ktana. Here, obviously, the ktana means that she's less than 3 years old. Okay, and therefore, right, so you have a gadol, that means he's basically 13 years old, and he has relations with a 3-year-old or whatever, 2.5, almost just 3, and therefore it's going to go back. Or you have the opposite case. You have a katan, he's a 9-year-old, because a 9-year-old is when he could already have the relations, and he has relations, sorry, it's less than 9 years old. 9 years old is already he's able to, right? That he has relations with a gdula. So let's say you have an 8.5-year-old that has relations with a 12-year-old. Okay? So what happens? Umukat etz, or a woman that she lost her virginity. Here it always speaks about losing the virginity through a piece of wood. Right? But it could be anything. Nowadays it could be because of a tampon, it could be because of bicycle riding, horseback riding, right? Dance. It could be for many different reasons that she loses her virginity. Right? And it came out. Ketubatan matayim. They still get 200 zuz, right? Like a regular betula. Why? Because since there was no relations, right? Or it was a relations that wasn't considered a real relations, so therefore she still gets 200, which means like this. A virgin, here this woman, she lost her virginity with a piece of wood, right? It got stuck, whatever happened, and now she lost it. But did she commit an illicit act? Did she do something wrong? She didn't do something wrong. Imagine right now she wanted to go to a pool, she put in a tampon, and all of a sudden, boom, it broke the virginity. So because it wasn't done as a relations, so therefore what happens? She still gets a ketubah of 200. Okay? Or for example, like we mentioned before, whether it was that it was a katan that had relations with her. Since it was less than a katan, it was less than even 9 years old, it's not considered relations. So therefore she's still considered, right? She still gets the 200. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Chachamim say no. Mukat etz ketubata mana. A mukat etz, which means a woman that loses it, even if it's going to be losing it naturally, it is a ketubah 100. Why? She lost virginity. At the end of the day, what is it, a used product? I don't care if it's refurbished and and as good as new. No.
Dios mío,
right?
Rabbi.
Yeah, it has to be that she's considered a new product. What's a new product? That's chachamim. Yeah, and right, what's the reason of that we already mentioned?
11b.
Yeah, we're going to speak about it later on, right? But that's the concept. Okay, fine. And that's how we pass them, by the way, like the rabbis. Okay, which means that she has to be a virgin. If she's a virgin, she gets 200. She's not a virgin, she does not get 200. Betula almana or grusha v'chalutza min nesuin. Imagine right now you have a case of a virgin, but she's a widow, or she's divorced, or chalitza from the marriage. What does that mean? She got married, right? And right after the chuppah, he passed away. Dropped dead. So now that she's an almana grusha v'chalutza min nesuin from the marriage, we're not talking about from engagement, from the marriage, right? Ketubatan maneh. She still gets a ketubah of a maneh. Why? Because the fact that she went into the chuppah, she has a dinim of like a beula. She has a dinim that she has the law as that she does not. You can't even say that she's not a betula anymore. Because remember, the second that you come and you give her 100 zuz, it means that she's not a betula. Maybe she's still a betula, doesn't matter, but that's what you give her. Okay? Hagiore v'ashuyah, Yudalef Amud Bet, 11b. Okay? Hagiore v'ashuyah v'ashivcha shenimtu shtikam shaljiru. What happens now if they convert after 3 years old? Or she was redeemed after 3 years old? Or she was liberated. She was a shivcha kananit and she was liberated after 3 years old. Ketubata mana, they only get maneh, ve'en lahem ta'anat betulin. And they do not have ta'anat betulin. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. Katan ba'al gdola samu katetz. If you have a katan that has, remember, katan means that he's less than 9 years old, that he has relations with a gdola, which means, let's say, a 12-year-old and above, he makes her into a mukat etz. What does that mean? He does remove the betulim, but it's not considered biyah. That means he removed the virginity, but it's not considered relations. Meaning, we don't kill anybody because of it, because it's not considered relations. It's a 9-year-old. It's less than a 9-year-old. But at the end of the day, she's a mukat etz. She's like a woman that she lost her virginity through a piece of wood. When we said this in front of Shmuel, Amari said, Em mukat etz bebasar. There's no mukat etz through basar adam. Meaning, when do we say mukat etz? Through a piece of wood, through something that happened, but not through a male organ. The male organ, if somebody goes inside, even though he's a katan, At the end of the day, that's not basar, that's basar, that's not mukatetz. So some people actually taught it by itself. Katana bala gdola Rav says that they made it into a mukatetz, and Shmuel says mukatetz b'basar, that we do not make a mukatetz through flesh. So Mati Rav Oshia comes and he asks a question from our Mishnah. Gadol shebala katana v'katana bala gdola mukatetz ketubot hamatayim divrei Rabbi Meir. V'chachamim omrim mukatetz ketubot hamana. 1 second. We said that according to Rabbi Meir, when you have a gadol having relations with a katana less than 3 years old, or you have a katan, which is less than 9 years old, having relations with a gadola, with a 12-year-old and all upwards, and a mukatetz, they have a ketubah matayim. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim say mukatetz ketubah tamana. Now, according to Rabbi Meir, why did he mention 3 different cases? And even Chachamim that they argue, they only mentioned mukatetz. They didn't mention anything else. So you see from here, right, that this is not going like, right, not like Rav, right? Why? Because Rav said that he made it like a mukatetz. So answers the Gemara. Rav says, no. Hachi kamar. This is what it means to say. Gadol ba'ala ketana v'lo klum. If you have a gadol that has relations with a ketana, meaning less than 3 years old, it's nothing. Why? Because even though it's a real biyah, it's going to go back to virginity. So it's going to go back. There's nothing to happen. Because if a girl is less than 3 years old, it's like you put your finger in your eye. If you put your finger in your eye, nothing happens. Right? It could be that you're going to come having some dimaot. You could have some tears coming out of your eye, but then you'll still be able to see. The same thing. It could be that there will be blood coming out, but afterwards it's going to go back. But he says, Katana bala gdola samu mukatetz. A katana minor, less than 9 years old, has relation with gdola, he makes into mukatetz. But mukatetz itself is a machloka between Rabbi Meir and Rabbanan. Okay, fine. So Amar Rabbi Merchama says Rabbi Merchama, the machloket is keshikirba, which means that the husband already knew that he's getting married to her, and he's getting married to her like this. Rabbi Meir is comparing her to a bogeret, which means a bogeret, naturally, she does not have ta'ana betulim, because naturally the blood goes away as they get older. So he says, but nevertheless, the ketubah is still 200. The Rabbanan, they're comparing it to a beula, right? But if he didn't know, meaning what happens if he got married and he didn't know that she didn't have her virginity, meaning he thinks that she's a virgin, and all of a sudden, no. So so according to everybody, she doesn't take anything, not even a mana. Why? It's a mekach ta'ut. A mekach ta'ut means it's a mistake. Meaning, if a person gets married to a girl, he needs to know her virginal status. Because if he already knows, right, that she's not a virgin, that's it. Okay, fine. He accepts it. No problem. There is a difference also, by the way, by beulat atzmo. Beulat atzmo means he was the one that made her not into a virgin. Because if he didn't make her, meaning if he was the one that had relations with her before the wedding, and he was the only one, so therefore he still has to give her 200 according to the majority of the opinions. Right? Why? Because he was the one that took it away. So he anyway has to pay that money. Okay? So that's very, very important. Okay? Very, very important. Why is it that Rabbi Meir is comparing this girl that's like a milkat etz to a bogeret? Why isn't she like a beula, like chachamim? So answers the Gemara, beula itavi ba ma'aseh bidei adam. A beula, there was an action through a human being done. Okay? Here, there's no action being done by a human being. So since there's no action being done by a human being, it's going to be okay. Okay? But according to the rabbis, why the opposite? Why do the rabbis say that you're comparing her to a beula, compare her to a bogeret? And so the Gemara, bogeret, a bogeret, nothing ever happened to her. Meaning there was nothing that happened to her. And just automatically she started losing, whether it's that she doesn't have blood anymore, whatever it is. But here, this woman, there was an action that was done, even though it was done through a human being, I don't care, but there was an action that was done to her. But what do we say? We say that according to everybody, if you didn't know anything and you got married to her, and also she's not a virgin, you don't owe her nothing. Wallow. Why wallow? Because at the end of the day, it was a mistake. It was a mistaken deal, right? It wasn't a new product. Imagine you buy something on Amazon, right? It's supposed to be new, and it comes and it's used. I don't care if it's used new or used in excellent condition, but the second that it's new, the second that it's written new and it was not new, it's a mistake, and you give it back, right? The same thing. So he says, Mati Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman comes and he asks the following question from the Mishnah later on in Gimel Amud Aleph. What happens? Imagine that she comes to Bedin and she says that she's a mukatetz. What does it mean? She lost her virginity, but how? Through a piece of wood. And the husband says, what are you talking about? You're drusat ish. What does that mean? Somebody had relations with you, and that's why you're not a virgin. And therefore, I don't owe you anything. Rabban Gamliel Rabbi Eliezer says she's believed. and she takes her ketubah. So it comes out that a mukatetz, even though he didn't makir ba, we don't say it's a mekach taut. So what are we talking about then? What's going on then? Ela Amarava, but Rava says, no, you're right. Ben ikidba, ben lo ikidba, l'Rebbemin matay. To do the mukatetz, whether he knew about it or he didn't know about it, she always gets 200, according to this. But according to the rabbis, hikirba maneh, lo ikidba v'lo klum. According to the rabbis, only if he knows about it, then she gets a maneh. But if he doesn't know about it, then she gets nothing. Because again, she had to say it. The hadar be Rava, and Rava was retracting from that which he said that according to Chachamim, when he doesn't know about it, she doesn't get anything. So in order to understand how do we know that he retracted? So he says because of this. The Tanya was learned in the Braita. The Braita is in Memvav Mudalef later on 46a. Keitzal Hotzaat Shemra. How do you do Hotzaat Shemra? What is Hotzaat Shemra? Hotzaat Shemra means that there was a Shemra that basically she was not a virgin, and really she was. So how do you do that? Ploni, right? So imagine right now he comes to Bedin and he tells the father-in-law, Ploni, Mr. So-and-so, Lo matzati bitcha betulim. Do you know that your daughter was not a virgin? If there's witnesses that she had relations under him, meaning that there was witnesses that she had relations, and when she was married to him, remember the erusin, because they used to have a year in between the marriage and the engagement and the marriage. Yeshla ketubah mana, she does get a ketubah mana. So says the Gemara, you don't understand. What does that mean? If there's witnesses that she committed adultery, she gets skila. It's the worst punishment in the Torah. She gets the death penalty by stone. She's not really by stone. First they throw her off a 2-story building. If she survives, and they come and they stone her to death. But what's going on? She gets ketubah mana. She gets stoned to death. What's going on? Says no. You're right. This is what I'm saying. If there's a din that she had relations underneath him, so then she gets skila, right? But zintami ikara, but she had relations before the marriage, yesh la ketubah mana, she gets 100 zuz, right? Yeah, before the erusin, right? If she did it before the erusin, so then she gets 100 zuz. The Amar Rabbi Chia Baravi Masechet says Masechet, so it means say kenasa bechizka betula v'nse beula yesh la ketubah mana. Says 1 second. That means you're going to tell me that according to this, it comes out that if a person gets married to a woman thinking that she's a virgin, and at the end she finds out to be a beula, she gets 100, even though he didn't know about it, and it's not a mekach taut. So Mati Rav Nachman comes, he asks a question on this, and he says, imagine a person gets married to a woman and he didn't find that she was a virgin. She says that she was violated when she was engaged, meaning she was already engaged, but she was violated. It's your mazal. Why? Once she's already married in Kiddushin, it's his mazal. So it's your mazal. It's not my problem. It's your mazal. Right? Your field was flooded over. And he says, no, what are you talking about? Right? It was before the engagement. And it was a mekach taut. Right? And therefore,
she wants to get the money out of him. It's her burden.
Exactly. So it says, so Amar Leruchia Baravi, Efshar, right? Rav Amram v'chol gdei lo yatve, ki Amar Rav Shesh lashmata. Do you know that Rav Chia Baravin comes and he tells Rav Nachman, can you tell me now that Rav Amram and all the Gdolei Ador were sitting there when Rav Sheshet comes and he says this, the Kashya Lehu, and they had this question, Veshani, and they answered, what does it mean mekach taut? Nami mimatayim, it means 200, but maneh idlev, you're going to have 100? You're going to tell me no? That means basically the question is, there's a machloket. Is it that she gets 100 or she gets nothing?
Right.
If you say it's a mekach taut, she gets nothing. But if you're going to say she gets a maneh, because maneh is like for a beula. Beula just means that she's not a virgin. So says the Gemara, Rava says, man de kamot yushapi, the one that asked the question is a good question. Right? Why? Mekach taut legamre mashma. When it says a mekach taut, it's mashma completely. What is a mekach taut? There was a mistake in the deal. Mekach is the purchase. Taut is a mistake, which means if it's a mistake in the deal, you go back 100%. Imagine right now you come to Amazon and you tell them, listen, I wanted something new. It was not new. So Amazon tells you, okay, fine, you know what? We'll give you the difference between new and used. You're going to tell them, no, I want new. Take it back and you get a refund, right? That's the way it is. So here the same thing. Mekach taut is mashma completely. Not that only you're just going to pay the difference between the new and the old. So it says, but what is the question? You have to answer, you have to say this. If there's witnesses that she had relations and it was under him, she gets killed by the death penalty, sekila. She gets stoning. Sintami kara, if she had relations beforehand, velo klum. What does that mean? It's a mekatahut and she gets nothing. But in tzad mekotets, if she becomes that she's a mukatets, she has ketubot manaf. Then she gets a ketubot manaf. And here we're making a differentiation between mukatets and be'ilah. If she had relations, if it was before the wedding, meaning before the engagement, she gets wallow, nothing, nada, right? Nothing whatsoever. But if it was a mukatets, she still gets 100. Okay? But 1 second, but Rava was one that said to Rabbanan, that if he doesn't know that she was a mukatets, she gets nothing, but it was a mistake. But rather you learn from here that Rava retracted and he holds that even according to Chachamim, if he didn't know, she still gets, right? It's not a mekachtahu, but she still gets 100. So Rava retracted and he says that she still gets 100. Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Braita. Kinasa rishon leshum nisuin. If right now the husband comes and he gets married for L'Shem Nisuin, Yeshla Edim Shelo Nistera, and you have Edim that she did not have Yichud the entire time. Inami or Nistera, she did have Yichud, she did seclude herself, but she didn't stay long enough in order to have relations. So again, one more time. A person went and he got married, okay? And there's Edim, that there was no seclusion. Or there was seclusion, but there was no time for relations, right? The second person, right, cannot come and be to'en tana betulim to make her lose the ketubah, right? Shareh kenasa rishon. There's the first person already got married. Meaning the fact that there was a first marriage, I suspect, doesn't matter. There was no time, doesn't matter. I suspect that she was not a virgin anymore. Okay? The Amar Rabba, and Rabba says, you better not have just on the top. So to minute you see from here, you see from here that what? That she still gets a ketubah v'mana, even though you got married to her like a betula, and then she was found to be a beula. And obviously Rav Ashi is going to push us off, and we continue with Hashem tomorrow morning. So have a wonderful day.